Hi, my name is Mariana, and this is Two Lost Souls Swimming in the Fishbowl podcast. But today there's only one fish, and that's me. And what brings me here today is I had a very special encounter yesterday with a client while I was working. I was blessed to be a hairstylist for over 20 something years, following my mother's footsteps at the age of 16. And being a hairstylist definitely gives us the opportunity, for those who are successful and have the opportunity to work for a long period of time, to talk to people from all walks of life, rich, poor, struggling, immigrant, anti-immigrant, diverse crowd. So yesterday I was talking to a very special client, and we were talking about affinity. Now, affinity is not something that we feel towards everyone. Affinity is a feeling that's definitely special, and we feel towards certain people and not towards others, sometimes towards a family member and sometimes not towards another family member. But affinity is something that is definitely something that is built, and it's almost like magnetic, right? So you feel something towards that one individual. And Webster's dictionary defines affinity as an attraction to or liking for something or someone. In the scientific world, it's an attractive force between substances or particles that cause them to enter into and remain in a chemical combination. And then there's another definition that says likeness based on relationship or casual connection. So what do I mean about affinity? Affinity takes work, and it has to be built, just like self-esteem. Some people are have more affinity towards others and have more self-esteem as well. But affinity has to be built, especially towards a family member, especially towards a friend. And this grandma yesterday, this lady was showing me how she has this close relationship with her granddaughter. Now, I know that a lot of people out there live in different states, and their grandchildren don't talk to them very often, but I'm here to tell you that everything can change if you do take an interest, not just by sending them a Christmas card or a birthday card, but by text messages. I thought it was brilliant how this lady was showing me how she passes by a Dairy Queen and sends her granddaughter a photo and says, "Thinking of you." And then she'll gather up all her granddaughter's toys that are left at her house. So grandma's house is full of this granddaughter's toys, and she says, "We are all missing you." And she puts all the teddy bears together and says, "We're thinking of you." So those things total up to having more and more affinity, because this granddaughter feels that her grandma loves her all the time and is thinking of her and is missing her. So in a world where we have inclinations to think that it's us against the world sometimes, or sometimes it's a lonely place or nobody understands us, it's really wonderful to be able to get those text messages and build from there. This works so much that her granddaughter had this assignment, and I hope that she doesn't mind me sharing that it was a poem assignment. And bottom line was that it started with kind heart, and then she basically told towards the end of the poem, I don't remember the whole thing, and she only shared it with me, and I'm only sharing because this is really what I feel like what life is about, right? So if we can't touch people's hearts, then what are we doing here with life? So her granddaughter ends up saying that kind heart towards the end, and said, one day I want to have a kind heart like my grandma. And my eyes just watered up. Yes, I'm one of those. And I just, to see the client's face, who's the grandmother, just, she was so, beyond words, with being that person for her granddaughter. But it's like affinity, having that connection and building upon that connection every day, and how important it is to keep in touch and stay in each other's lives, take a real interest and not disconnect, because any spaces are filled with ludicrous ideas sometimes. I come from from parents that I have had, because he's passed, my father. I had an alcoholic parent, and a lot of times, after he closed up his business, he began, drinking more at that period of my life, which was around 16, 17, my teenage years. And we have a storage right now in 2024 that we're trying to close out. And my mom brought in all these albums from when I was a teenager. And I only remembered the bad stuff. I could not remember that there were parties, that I was dancing and having a good time. I feel like sometimes we protect, our brain has this defense mechanism, or puts up walls as defense to defend us from getting hurt. So we only tend to cling on to the bad, especially because I moved out so early on by myself. So living by myself, from a pattern of self-isolation, not to see my dad drinking and not to participate with him in that sense. Like, I just didn't want anything to do with him while he was in that state. And I didn't want to be at the house. So as soon as I was able to move out at the age of 19, I did. And that's why I didn't go to college till later on. And now I'm in my master's program. 6 years in, I'm almost done. But I do miss talking to people as a hairstylist. I feel like that gave me a lot of freedom. And I felt like clients really did open up to me. And that was why I even went into counseling to begin with. And going back to my story, how we tend to cling on to the negative things to protect ourselves. We protect ourselves from ourselves. So nobody can hurt us anymore, or all our alarms and bells and whistles go off if there's something that is just not right. So my go-to is the self-isolation. That is a big defense mechanism for me. So I will cut people off and self-isolate, no problem. I've been doing that all my life. But then now that I look back at these pictures, I'm like, my memory was not very good. I only remember the bad stuff. Look at me, 16, I'm laughing. I'm wearing Happy 2000 in the millennium. The crown, I said 2000, and I was jumping around and happy. And I remember later, like a decade later, maybe more, my friend was talking about a high school friend, and I didn't even remember being friends with this high school person. And then in the same album, I saw us doing karaoke. Now I have a wonderful memory. I can memorize a lot of things. I memorize clients' names and their pets' names and where they went for vacation. So it's not about memory or passing a test or information. It's about protecting myself from a time that I fought very hard for my survival. I just wanted to get out of that house. So anything during that time that was positive, the negative trumped it. So I was only clinging on to the negative. So when somebody brought up, or when my mom brought those albums, I was like, what? I was happy? I was dancing? I was doing this? And for a long time, I didn't even remember. So our memory is not something that we can count on. And I know that police officers already know that memory is valuable, and I know that psychologists and neuroscientists already know that as well. But it's good for people that don't remember and think that maybe they had a really bad childhood to maybe ask uncles, aunts, family members that are willing to share photos of them, because I feel like we're definitely oscillating between good and bad, happy days and bad days all the time. I don't think, now that I saw those albums, I know for sure that it wasn't all bad. My teenage years and coming to America and acculturating wasn't all that bad, even though that's all I could remember. But I do feel that it was like a very strong defense mechanism trying to block more people from hurting me. I don't know if that's common. I have to do more research for children of drug users and alcoholic parents, or parents who abuse of any substance. But I will share this, which I found very interesting. I do love positive psychology, so as soon as I'm done with my master's, or while I'm doing my clinicals, which is coming up soon, I do want to get certified in positive psychology. And the reason why I find positive psychology so amazing, it's because it's a different approach. It's not the same old, let's just talk about trauma, because instead of uncovering the negative, positive psychology puts positive first. So positive psychologists look for formulas and strategies for achieving the ultimate happiness and fulfillment in life. And of course, it's not possible to be feeling happy, but there are some aspects that are like, oh, here's this box in this category right here. In this aspect of my life, I am happy. And then we have another box here, just happy. Am I happy here? And we can categorize and organize our thoughts better, instead of just having it all entangled and feeling like it was just all unhappy. And then we can categorize, okay, well, this area here I can get better at. For me, like, I'm making the effort to go out and interact with the outer world, since my self-isolation has been ongoing for years. So going out and interacting with the outer world would be something that it's in the low, it's in the negative, not positive. So even though I do go and socialize with work, I don't socialize with my private life, right? So I'm going to share the model. It's called the PERMA model of happiness, and it's a concept developed by Martin Seligman, which is an acronym for 5 key elements: maintaining happiness, P, positive emotions, E, engagement, R is for relationships, M is for meaning, and A, PERMA, from the PERMA, is achievement. Now, I like this model, and it's pretty straightforward, right? It's like self-explanatory. So if you're working towards these 5 elements on a daily basis, and I have alarms going off on my phone because that helps me, about take a deep breath and just concentrate on gratitude. I learned that from Dr. Joe Dispenza, from the gratitude meditations. Then I have been doing that. So my phone will go off 3 or 4 times a day, and it says, take a deep breath and look around you and be grateful. So I have been doing that along with this model, and I have been feeling like what I said. So there are different categories that obviously I have to work on, because as long as I'm alive, I want to progress. I want to be a better person, and I want to be a better person in order to be able to serve others. I can't be a counselor full of hang-ups. I can't. I won't be able to treat anyone if I'm full of hang-ups. I'm just going to sit there and look at everyone from a person who's full of hang-up angle, and that's not where I want to be, and that's not who the person that I'm striving to become. And while Martin Seligman talks about the pyramid model, he also, it's amazing how Abraham Maslow was ahead of his time with the pyramid of self-actualization, because that is the point. So I'm going to share here the pyramid of self-actualization from Maslow. You can download it on Google, and so you can download the PERMA. It's also on the Positive Psychology website. And Seligman says, he lays out what humans need to eventually reach self-actualization and self-fulfillment. Above physiological needs, psychological needs, and the need of belongingness, humans want to feel as though they belong, and that's where I bring affinity, which we have to work on. So if we have a grandma or an aunt or someone who wants to talk to us and tell us we are loved, then that's what we're going to remember. Someone out there in the world loves me. It isn't all bad. And I feel like I didn't have that because my parents were very quiet people. They were non-expressive. But now that we are coming, Gen Z's need to express with emotion and talk about it, and everything is exaggerated because the pendulum of life usually swings into extremes, right? So we went from, the pendulum swung from non-expressive, silent, you didn't talk about, it was improper for a woman to even be near a man 100 years ago, to another side. Now we have promiscuous women, which is fine for whatever you're looking for, and feminist movements and women. We even have triangle people, for whatever that means, who are non-binary, non-female and non-male and non-binary. I don't know, whatever that triangle. That was a new one. So we're going to the extreme sides where people don't want to be defined by anything. I think that's what the main point is, that they don't want to be defined by anything. But the sense of belonging still remains. And the affinity between people still remains. All these people are looking for someone to understand them, to love them, and to build this affinity towards. So if you can't find a way to connect to your grandchildren or to your own children, figure out something that they like. Send little messages and use that little thing that send them, I don't know, chocolates, or even if they did something bad. I mean, we're here for less than 100 years. It's so insignificant in the large scope of things that maybe, people out there love tough love. I'm going to show them. But when we're laying on our deathbed, or when we are tragically ill, we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about opportunities that life had given us, and we just passed it because we just hung on to negative emotions that kept us stuck. The power of forgiveness is not that you're going to forgive someone the first time. It's a practice, and it's not towards the other person. First, it's yourself for the shame, blame, and for allowing a situation to happen. And if you're the one who did the wrongdoing, then why not apologize if you do feel bad about it? Or if there's some pride never got anyone anything, just wars, just more wars. And going back to belongingness, humans want to feel as though they belong, and that is what that grandma is doing, telling her granddaughter that she loves her, she's missing her, that she belongs to her. And that love between grandmother and daughter, between my own grandfather, even though we didn't speak for a long time, I know he taught me how to ride my bike. He was the best thing in my own childhood. So that affinity was there when I was a child, but when I moved to the United States, it was a long time ago, and unfortunately for me and for him, the affinity was lost, because long distance phone calls were not something that was Bible, and it was very expensive. So affinity could be lost if not cultivated. Sometimes people just want a new start or a new beginning, and they're willing to cut their losses even though and lose affinity because X, Y, and Z. And I don't know why. I'm not here to judge anyone. But people, when they want to change and they want a new life, like people who are coming out of rehab centers and things like that, I know that they have to cut ties with a lot of people that were toxic, even the good ones, just because they need a brand new start. But they are able to begin again and start new affinity with others. And this new affinity for those who need it begins with something divine, a divine power of some type. You can call it God. You can call it the universe. If we are made in his image, like most of the New Testaments of all these other religions talks about, then there must be a part of me that is also divine. I am going to stick with that because I can't prove that God or whoever this force is does not exist. So therefore, he must exist because I can't prove he does not. So I do feel that that is the first affinity that we must have, is that we have this heart that we have to fill with love, and then we can offer it to others. And then here it says, humans want to feel as though they belong, and I already said that. They want to feel they can reach out to friends, family, colleagues, etc. for support. People want to feel seen, heard, and loved. And my mother began doing the teddy bear with my niece. My niece purposely left a teddy bear on her guest room, and then my mom began to take photos of the teddy bear and showing her like she was missing her, and it was working for a long time. She was saying, "Oh, grandma, I love you," and "Oh, grandma, oh, I wish I was doing what the teddy bear was doing." And she's 10 years old. So those are things that slowly build the blocks of affinity, and it goes from there, and it can't be stopped. Like, there can't be spaces. We have to continuously build upon it. So if there's opportunities and if time permits, make the time, right? And then affinity is not lost. And I wish I never lost my own affinity towards my grandfather. And I wish I didn't waste so many years, so much time thinking that it was all bad, instead of thinking that some parts were good during my teenage years, because that brought a lot of suffering. And so I would suggest to most people that they gather up their old photos and send little jokes and send little things to your grandchildren or your niece and nephew. Or, I mean, if you have somebody that doesn't want to talk to you, there's nothing we can do there. I mean, I do have people that don't want to talk to me, like, that have not learned the power of forgiveness, or they prefer living a life of solitude where they don't want to be bothered. I think that's more what I wanted to say. But for those who I have cut loose, I have nothing against them. I do have affinity towards a lot of people, and I know that it has to be cultivated. But you have a good friendship when you can go years without talking, and then all of a sudden, some life event happens and you talk again, and it's like nothing ever happened. So I do believe that affinity is a strong bond between two people. I almost feel like it's unexplainable, but I also feel like you can build on it. So yes, affinity. If anybody has anything that they would like to suggest that they might do or don't do, please email the email that is on YouTube channel. And I would love to hear from everybody and what they do with their own family members and people who are at a distance, right? And yeah, so please never be afraid to show that you are loved and that you love someone. Like I said, our time here is 100 years or less. That's not a lot of time. So love as much as you can and give love as much as you can. All right. And that was a podcast of one lost soul swimming in a fishboat, Mariana. And more episodes coming up because I do have a lot more to say. So thank you so much for listening.